was curious to go back gear-wise because I'm a gearhead as well, but why the switch to the Venice 2? And obviously it's a great camera, but I'm curious on your thought process there on how you decided and wanted to jump up.
I'm a gear nerd too, honestly, but I am. We all are as cinematographers, right? It's just part of the game. I chilled out on it not too long ago because it's, like I said, they're just tools. Yeah. I do want to have a base for certain things. Like I remember my first set of true cinema glass I bought. It needs to make sense for me. It's not like the highest quality. Like it's the Tokina Vista Primes. They're great. Price, they look fantastic for me. They offered a 1.5 across the board, even on an 18 millimeter. Oh. There's not a lot of distortion, but they don't break the bank, right? They're not going to be like a signature prime, which is like 70 grand a lens or whatever. Yes. Right? They're like 10 grand a lens, which is still a lot of cash. Yeah. But we're in, as you grow in your career, you do notice that cash is there, right? That's the one thing you learn when you start becoming a real professional and you are making a real career as a filmmaker, that this stuff costs money, right? If you were to rent it from a gear house, they're going to charge you for it. Yeah. So my thought process was, I'm going to stop giving money to the rental houses on the camera side, at least, right? Yeah. So, I just kind of did the sheer math on it. And I was like, well, I own my FX9. So even if I don't work the Venice at all, I can pay for it every month with getting my FX9 on jobs. Yeah. While I'm trying to talk people into like, hey, spend $2,000 instead of $5,000. But I think we're all in this world now where we understand quality, and I haven't had to argue with anybody about getting it
pushing
on set. Yeah. And it's, it's a beautiful camera. And at some point, right, an image is an image, and it's really hard to tell the difference in like an FX6, an FX9, a Venice, or, a mini LF. I feel like that's all in the talent of the filmmakers. Yeah. You can shoot on anything. It was kind of when Atlas first came out making these anamorphic lenses that are on a budget. I mean, they basically were wanting to give you the opportunity to shoot anamorphic, which was before that reserved for large budget stuff, right? And now you can rent a full set of those for $500 for the day. Yeah. And now it's opened up the world of everybody being able to look into anamorphic. And it's just, gear is what it is, and I think it has to be the right gear for the right project. I own the Venice 2. There may be a project I don't shoot with it. I may rent a mini LF if that calls towards the project, right? Yeah, it was just one of those things where I had a relationship with Sony. They've done a couple interviews with me, and we've collaborated on a couple things, and in my mind, I had shot on all those larger cameras, and I was like, well, the mini LF, I'm a full frame guy, and we're going to have that argument over and over. Like, some people think I'm an idiot that I think that matters. And so when the Super 35 new Alexa came out, I was like, I just don't think that's going to be the camera for me. And Ari's great. It's one of my favorite camera brands, but it was I felt like limiting at the time. If I'm going to own it, I'm going to spend that kind of money, right? We're a Super 35 sensor. It's only 4K. Or your option is to do the Mini LF, which is a 10-year-old sensor. And it's just two sensors stacked, next to each other. Yeah. So I was like, if we're going to own something, why would I invest in, 10-year-old technology? Which
that makes sense.
Ari's great. So even 10-year-old technology is still it's still beating the Venice. It's still at the forefront of how many things are shot on it. But the Venice is 8.6K, full frame sensor. And they're actually growing quite a bit. They're on a ton of movies. And the new Avatar was shot on it.
Yeah, that's right. I saw that.
A lot of big movies are actually now being shot on. I think The Boys, all the seasons were on the Venice 1. So I tested the camera. I was like, man, this thing is fantastic. So, I was like, I just have to have it for what I want to shoot on, right?
I need it.
Need it.
You didn't need it. But
no, it's funny. FX9 still makes it out on stuff.